Yo, what's good my fellow Imaginites? It is your boy DEADMANVINCE back with yet another JJK Phantom Parade video. Today we're going to be talking about the mono red team that I am working on in preparation for the Cursed Sweep battle that will be here on the global version of the game. As far as we know, probably the half anniversary. It came out during the first anniversary on the Japanese version, but we know that the stuff has been getting pushed up like super fast. So I'm just going ahead and working on everything right now because you never know when the stuff is going to drop. But we are looking at our red team today. Obviously the entire team is not red. So kind of what I do is I set up a team, and if there's a character that's missing from the team, I'll put in another version of the character. It doesn't have to be the same color, but just so I kind of remember, you know, oh, okay, I want to get the red Gojo. This is my red team, so there's only one red Gojo in the game, so I know the Gojo I'm looking for. That's going to be the anniversary Gojo. So this team literally will not be filled out until at least the half anniversary comes, as far as we know. And that's okay, because after the half anniversary or the first anniversary, or whichever how they want to do it, after that we will officially have domain expansion Gojo in the game, which will give us access to working on him before the event comes out, because the event took a month after the anniversary to come out. Like, the anniversary started, you took your time getting all of your characters and everything, and then literally after the anniversary was all said and done, the next month started up. And for the Shibuya incident, that's when they added in the so the game mode was more so linked to the Shibuya incident update of the game than the actual anniversary itself. But you guys already know how we do this. We're literally going to go over the characters, kind of go over my basic reasoning for each one of them on the wiki. But first, I'll just give you guys a little overview of the team right now. So basically where I'm at with it is Yaga's buff skill is level 10, but the rest of his skills are still kind of like poorly leveled. I do want to get all character skills to level 10. I do see the merit in that now. Before, I used to want to work on specific skills that I thought were the most important for a character and then come back around and get the rest of the skills level 10. But I'm like, if you finish, so say for instance I finish Yaga's skill 2 and his ultimate and get them both to level 10. And then I move on to the next character and the next character and the next character, I may just completely forget about getting these two skills level 10 because he's not that big of a damage dealer, yes, but at the end of the day, any extra little bit of damage helps. Like this Nanami right here, obviously people are using this Nanami for his buffing, but one thing that you forget about is the fact that this buff not only buffs the entire team, but also just buffs himself straight up. So whenever you are dropping Nanami's ultimate, which I usually end up doing because one, his ultimate is giving everybody a damage dealt increase, but also if you use it in tandem with perfect synchronization, the skill page or the recollection bit, then that's giving an extra 35% damage dealt increase as well. So you typically use Nanami's ultimate a lot, and more often than not, Nanami's ultimate has surprised me and actually dealt a pretty good amount of damage, considering that he can do black flashes as well. Gojo's skills are all level 8. Typically what I try to do for a base level with the character is to get all their skills level 3 to start out, just so like if I ever do want to work on a character, at least all their skills are level 3, plus it gives me some rewards towards character growth and everything. But that's my like kind of like thresholds: level 3 on all the skills, then I'll try to shoot for level 8 on all the skills on a character, unless you have those special cases where like it's a character who has one really good skill, specifically buffers, right? And then after I get everything level 8, I'll slowly try to work my way through and try to get everything to level 10. I feel like level 8 is a solid level for you to see what a skill can really do. Obviously level 10 is going to be the most optimal. Yuta is the only one here that is level 10 all the way, because Yuta, out of all these characters, well, not really out of all these characters has he been the one I've had the longest, but out of all the SSRs on the team, he's probably the one I've had the longest. I probably summoned a couple copies of Maki before I got Yuta, but still, the one that I just wanted to invest the most in. He's a limited character. My grind methods typically go not out of the window, but I will be willing to change my grind procedure for limited characters just because they don't come back as often. So I try to get them worked on as much as possible, because they're the easiest characters to get extra stats for are the ones that you can constantly summon for on banners. And if a limited character is not going to come back on banners, then you don't have that many opportunities to summon for them and give them extra stats from getting dupes. So that's why I believe in giving them all the growth that you can get them like necessary. And if you summon for a limited character, I do kind of believe in going balls deep for him. But obviously we have things that we need to save for and prioritize, and this game's not so free to play friendly. I digress. But yes, Gojo skills are all level 8, Yuta skills are all level 10. This works exceptionally well, as you can imagine. Really good AoE right here, another really good AoE on his skill 2 with a chance to instant kill, a really good single target on his skill 1 and his skill 2. So Yuta always performs, and Yuta's 4 dupes, if y'all didn't notice that like a second ago. The reason why I chose Maki as a backline is because, one, I don't really want my backline to really have to contribute to the Cursed Sweep battle runs. they're just kind of more so there in case they have to. I would prefer to have extra damage than I have a backup buffer in the back line, because I feel like by the time that all the people in the front line die in that event, you know, I'm gonna be close to the end trying to get that last little bit of damage out anyway. So I opt for DPSs just to make sure that I definitely can finish up that damage at the end. And the main reason why I chose Maki, I'll show you who I had beforehand later on in the video, but the reason why I chose Maki now is because she actually is one of the characters who gets buffed from the update, and the buff that happens on her is going to be her ultimate and her skill 1. I did those in reverse, but her ultimate and her skill 1, which the skill 1 getting a buff is literally just like super free, because it's the skill 1 is going to be much better than it was before, so that's just free damage all the time. A lot of people who have not a lot of people, but like heavily restricted characters, when you get them leveled up, like on her skill 2, I think one of the skills has a cooldown to it now, instead of it having a instead of it just being free for you to use every single turn. But we'll go back over the pages after I go in and break the characters down a little more in depth about their skills and everything, and explain why I chose the skills that I chose. And we also got to figure out what page I want to put with this Gojo here, because like I said, we already know it's the domain expansion Gojo, but you can see all the characters are 5 dupe here. I plan to get the domain expansion Gojo as many dupes as I possibly can whenever he comes out. Like obviously I want to save up 75,000 for a rotation for him and Sukuna each, but saving anything past that is going to be exceptional. You know, it's going to be really good help for me. And the only character that I plan on summoning for in between right now is literally the yellow Yaga. So other than that, I don't really have that many things that should be taken away from my cubes, unless I plan on, you know, spamming stamina, which as soon as I get to level 100, spamming stamina just becomes useless, because your stamina gauge is never going to increase from you leveling up. So at that point, it truly is useless to just spam stamina all day long, unless you're just trying to hard farm stuff still to that day on. But let's go ahead and head over to the wiki and break down each one of these characters' kits. Most of these characters you already know, like these two and Yuta for sure you already know. Domain expansion Gojo you might not know too much, and Maki you might not know too much just because she sucks. But we'll go over each one of the characters, then we'll go over subs that you can use for those characters, then I'll come back, I'll go over why I chose the pages that I chose, and then I will try to find an event where I can use this team. Not this team. I'll take out Gojo and replace him with somebody else. I don't want to talk y'all's head off forever, so I'm going to try to be a bit more quick and concise in this video. The first character that we're going to be looking at is going to be Yaga. We all know what he does. Basically, the reason why I want the yellow Yaga is because he can do this buff right here, but not for 4 turns. It's just a passive buff, right? And instead of it being 45.8%, it's 46%. Nonetheless, that does not make this Yaga any worse. 46% increase to taijutsu and jujutsu damage every turn for 4 turns is ridiculous. Literally, if you use a basic skill in the first... Oh, did they upgrade this and actually give it extra stuff so now it has a critical hit rate? Do they upgrade the SR characters? Do SR characters have access to the hidden potential system? That's one thing that I really do want to know. I've been thinking about that now. But his skill 1 deals 50.4% melee taijutsu damage, has a 40% chance to do a crit, and it has a 50% crit damage increase, but he can't do black flashes, so that's whatever. His skill 2 is going to be the buff the taijutsu and jujutsu by 46% for 4 turns, so you can stack it up to 4 times. So here's the nice thing about Yaga's buff. Typically, if a character stacks a buff to a certain number of times, so like say for instance 4 times, right? If Gojo had a buff that he stacked 2 times, like his damage dealt buff, right? He can only, or he stacks it 3 times, he can only use the buff 2 times, and then the 3rd turn he has to use an attack to fully utilize the buff. If he tries to buff the 3rd time, it'll buff the 3rd time that turn, but then the stack from the 1st turn will go away. So you literally have to go 2 times and then drop the move, right? The nice thing about Yaga is the fact that since he is a separate buffer from most of your DPSs, or from all your DPSs, literally, he can do this 4 times, right? But you do it 3 turns, then on the 4th turn you do it again, and for that 4th turn, the DPSs have the 4 stacks, and then it goes away after the turn is over, but you can still get them the 4 instances of the stack. That's what's so nice about his skill. Then right here, people don't really look at these too much, but like his other skills are debuff skills, and they actually are decently, like, you know, good debuff skills. Range, 137.6% range jutsu damage to selected enemy. Deals combined damage equal to 172 taijutsu and 34.4% jujutsu to a selected enemy. Increases the selected enemy's damage received by 47.6% for 2 turns. 40% crit hit rate on all the hits, and a 10% crit damage increase on all the hits. Doesn't really matter. Yaga does not do that much damage. What matters the most is the debuffing aspect of it. His ultimate, I'll just read this first. 0% chance to crit on the first 5 hits, but a 40% chance to crit on the last hit. 0% crit damage buff on the first 5 hits, 50% crit damage buff on the 6th hit. Just so you guys have an idea. Deals 808.2 range jutsu damage to a selected enemy, 6 hits. Decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 49.7%. Then decreases the selected enemy's jujutsu damage by 49.7%. Then increases the selected enemy's damage received by 49.7%. So this is cool. It makes the enemy hit not as hard. What the real point of the ultimate is this right here, because as you're stacking up your character's damage the entire time, you're then going to give them an increased damage. You're going to give the enemy an increased damage received debuff, and that's going to make your units hit really, really hard. This man has no auto skills, unfortunately, but he is just an SR character. And on his combo skill, he does increase his allies' break damage, so that is also good for. Oh, and also fills non-combo allies' ultimate skill gauge by 110. Oh, I did not notice that. So not only is he giving a buff to the combo ally, he's giving gauge up to non-combo allies. I've never noticed that. So yeah, obviously Yaga's an incredible choice. You guys definitely have him worked on. Like, a lot of people in the start of the game were getting all the SSRs that they wanted, but they didn't get Yaga, and they were like, damn, do I need to restart my account? So Yaga is absolutely incredible. Next up, we have this man Nanami. I just talked about him a little bit, obviously, as I was talking about the team in general. He can surprise you with the damage a little bit every now and then, so it does definitely take merit to level up his DPS skills, especially. Like Yaga, it takes merit to level up his DPS skills because 2 of his DPS skills are also just, you know, debuff skills, and then his first skill, it's just extra little chip damage if you're trying to, especially because a lot of the time, if you're not running a team with Kaito, which these are mono teams, so there is no Kaito. If you're not running a team with Kaito, you're not going to have that cursed energy recovery like you want it. So typically you do need to do the first turn, the basic skill, and then afterwards you can come back and start using the buff skill. When a Black Flash is performed, Nanami increases his own Black Flash rate, and yes, of course, he can hit Black Flash. It's Nanami, after all, the record holder for most consecutive Black Flashes before Yuji pulled up to the scene. Deals melee combined damage equal to 75.2% taijutsu and 75.2% jujutsu. Critical hit rate 40%, critical damage 50%. Surprisingly enough, though, no Black Flash rate or damage on this. That's crazy. Skill 2. Increases own damage by 45.8% for 4 turns. So this is why he ends up hitting really hard and you're not noticing, because nobody ever thinks about the fact that he's buffing himself as well. They just care about the buff that he's giving all his allies. And then he's excluded from the buff that all your allies get just because he's giving himself a bigger buff anyway. But the one that he gives all the allies is 34.4%, which is not bad, especially in combo with, because look, this is perfect coverage on buffs. Yaga gives you Jujutsu and Taijutsu, so that helps anybody on your team no matter what type of damage their focus is. Then Nanami is giving the damage dealt as well. And these two, as a buffing combo, work extremely well for characters who scale off of both equally, right? So Nanami actually scales really well off of this combo himself, because he scales evenly off of Taijutsu and Jujutsu. Most Nanamis do, if not all of them. I don't know that there's an... I say most because I don't know that there's an Nanami that does have his Jujutsu Taijutsu skewered a little bit, and I didn't want to be presumptuous and say that I didn't know. So as far as I know, all Nanamis function in that way, where it's complete hybrid, but there could be one that doesn't. I know the blue one does, I know the green one does, I know this one does. I don't know about the yellow one, that's why I'm mainly saying that. His skill 3. Deals melee combined damage equal to 181.9% taijutsu and jujutsu to selected enemy. Critical hit rate 180%. Oh my gosh, this skill does actually do Black Flashes quite a bit for me and does pretty good damage. I have to use it every now and then. It's very rare, but it gets the job done. Critical damage 50%, Black Flash rate 30%, and then Black Flash damage 200%. So maybe I start using this skill a little more. I don't know. I just never am in a position where I want to use that skill. Literally, I'm using the skill 2 all the time. If I'm out of, I'm about to say mana. Oh my gosh, to the Black Clover days, and they didn't even have mana in there. If I'm out of cursed energy, then I will typically just use the skill 1. So literally, if I can't use the skill 2, I don't use this, and if I can't use the skill 2, then I use it over using the skill 3. So the skill 3 doesn't get that much use. But if you need that extra damage, it could be what you need, man. Like, I can imagine I'm doing the Cursed Sweep battle and I'm close to killing the boss and I'm like right at the end and I don't have enough, but like instead of using a buff with Nanami, you know, I see that Nanami can do a little bit of extra chip with it, and you know, maybe I use Nanami's skill 3 instead of his skill 2, and that gives me the last little bit of damage I needed to kill the boss that turn, which kind of saves me a world of difference, because that's the difference in between me killing the boss that turn and the boss staying alive one more turn and doing just enough damage to kill everybody else who's an essential player who could have killed him. The ultimate. Now this skill actually does a pretty nice, like Nanami typically is taken away 25% of the health bar when I'm not paying attention. I'm just like, what in the hell? And the skill's not even leveled up all the way. That's the crazy part. Deals melee combined damage equal to 500% basically, taijutsu and jujutsu. Increases all allies damage by 27.8% when you get it to max level. This works beautifully with perfect synchronization because that just adds another 35% on top, which makes this a lot more formidable. Or it feels more formidable. Critical hit rate, 180. Critical damage, 50%. Black Flash, 30%. Black Flash damage, 200%. Right? So same thing as the skill 3. But the ult is obviously just much more utilized, much more important. Melee combined damage equal to 50% taijutsu and jujutsu. So even on his combo ultimate effect, it's still an even split. That boy never is slacking. Recovers own combo allies cursed energy by 10%, then refills non-combo allies ultimate skill gauge by 110%. And then also, when Black Flash is performed, increases own Black Flash rate by 200% for 4 turns. Does this Nanami? Hold on. I was about to say, yeah. In game, this Nanami does not have zone as an auto skill. What? I was about to say, if they gave this Nanami zone, that would be the one thing that made him even crazier. But he has zone now, so that's insane. I was actually very curious. Let me go on my tangent real quick. I was actually very curious. Were they giving SR character zone and stuff like that too? Because you know, there's literally a rare Yuji. There's not an SR Yuji, but there's a rare Yuji. There's an SR Nanami. So I'm like, are they giving lower level characters zone as well? Because there's a rare Nobara as well, and Nobara can hit Black Flash. So I'm just like, who's getting zone, who's not? So it's very great to see that they're giving zone to SR characters as well. Just giving zone to anybody who can do zone. I'm glad they didn't lock it away to just like an SSR premium thing. It's just a new thing in general that they were trying to add to the game. This is also another reason why this pierces the veil a little bit and kind of gives a little sneak peek to the next few videos. This is the reason why I don't say you need to summon for zone Yuji anymore, because the one thing that made zone Yuji super impressive to me is the fact that he had zone. Then I saw Domain Expansion Gojo had zone, and he kind of lost his shine, his luster, in my opinion, already just off of that. Then I went back and saw all these updates they were doing, and I was like, oh, you have the original Yuji zone? Oh, okay, who cares, right? So zone isn't something special to Yuji. It's just something for Black Flash users. Next up is literally, and guys, I'm doing this in order of how the team would be set up. So literally, I'd have my 2 buffers first, then I have my debuffer, and then I have my DPS, right? Typically, I try to stagger the team in a way where it's like 2 buffers, 2 DPSs, or it's like buffer, debuffer, 2 DPSs, or even if the 2 DPS slots aren't exactly 2 DPSs, because Gojo's not a DPS. It says he's an attacker, but he's like the ultimate debuffer, really. But even still, he does incredible damage, so he's gonna sit there as an attacker anyway, obviously, right? But Domain Expansion Gojo leaves the field once urgent business reaches 0, and then he increases his own stats when a Black Flash is performed. And also, guys, this Gojo is the first Gojo to leave in 10 turns instead of 7 turns. You have regular Gojo who leaves in 7 turns. There are no extra conditions to it. I mean, I guess if he dies, right? Then you have the Hollow Purple Gojo who leaves in 7 turns if he dies, obviously, or if he uses his ultimate, because Hollow Purple is just that strong. Or they say, sometimes I do Hollow Purple in stages and it doesn't kill a boss, but I could be a hater, I don't know. And my Gojo's pretty built out. You have Yellow Gojo, which is the young Gojo from the Hidden Inventory arc, who doesn't leave at all because he's not fully grown, so his power is not fully realized yet, so they think that it's okay for him to stay the entire duration of the fight. Then you have Domain Expansion Gojo, who doesn't stay for the entire duration of the fight, but technically he kind of does, because he deals so much insane damage that it's like the fight is done by the time he's leaving. When Gojo leaves, the fight's over, basically. Skill 1. Deals melee combined damage equal to 380 taijutsu and 120 jujutsu to the selected enemy. If skill restriction status is active, decreases the selected enemy's critical hit resistance by 15%. Critical hit damage 40%, critical hit rate 40%, critical hit damage 50%. I think that if a character has Black Flash built into their kit and they can do Black Flashes, I think that every single one of their skills that is an attack should have a Black Flash rate to it. Is that just an unpopular opinion for me? Am I the only one who thinks that, or is that like a common held belief? Doesn't it seem kind of crazy to have a character who can do Black Flash and you're not increase their Black Flash rate on anything at all? Or not anything at all, but like on some skills. Like I feel like every skill should be moving towards that effect, especially because taijutsu is the main focus of this skill right here. Skill 2. Deals 530% range jujutsu damage to all enemies. Decreases all enemies damage dealt by 25%. If skill restriction status is active, skill cannot be used. Has a 40% chance crit rate. Has a 50% damage rate, crit damage up. Now, guys, I don't really have a recommendation for you on what way you should level up Gojo's skills. I mean, obviously the domain first, because his domain is absolutely overpowered. I guess I can't say obviously yet because we haven't gotten down to the domain yet, but like his domain is sheer insanity. It's literally infinite void. It's literally the craziest debuffing thing I've seen in this game, and it makes enemies rip like pieces of paper. So definitely that domain is first, but it's close second, this skill right here, because it's an AoE and it usually wipes away every single enemy that you see. And if you do auto battle with Gojo, he typically just does this skill. So this skill is really good to get up just for farming at least. Skill 3, Curse Technique Reversal Red. A very good skill to get up as well because it deals 700% range Jujutsu damage, so you can bank fully off the Jujutsu, and increases own Jujutsu damage by 45% for 3 turns. And you can stack that. So I just like to spam this skill, really. If it's like a single target enemy, I'll just spam this skill nonstop. If skill restriction status is in effect, cannot use this skill. So basically when skill restriction is used, you can only use skill 1. His critical hit rate is going to be 40%, and his critical hit damage is going to be increased by 50%. Ultimate domain expansion, Infinite Void. Yoichi Tenkai Muryakusha. Alright. Grant sure hit effect to self, cancelled once domain ends. Inflicts all enemies with stun, Infinite Void status, 2 turns. Inflicts all enemies with Infinite Void status, 4 turns. Decreases all enemies' ultimate skill count by 1. Prevents all enemies from increasing their ultimate skill count for 4 turns. Increases all enemies' damage received by 100% for 4 turns. Depending on how high urgent business count is when the skill is activated, additionally increases all enemies' damage received by 200% instead of just 100%. If you still have 6 counts of... So basically, if Gojo's counter for leaving is still at 6, the minimum, you're going to increase the damage that the enemy receives by 200%. If Gojo's counter is only left at 1, you're still getting an increase of 25%. So that's not bad at all. It's actually really good because at least the counters are helping you in a way. Typically with a Gojo character, the counters are something that you know are leading to your downfall because as soon as the counters are gone, Gojo's gone. But at least you know that you can get extra effects off the counters as well. The counters actually have another meaning to them as well. Not just Gojo leaving, but also your extra damage that you're going to be dealing with Gojo. Cancels out other domain expansions indefinitely. That doesn't say maybe, no, indefinitely. Activate skill restriction status 3 times. Cannot charge own ultimate gauge for 3 turns, and then increases own urgent business count by 1 turn. So he gives himself an extra turn once. So basically, as his 10 turns whittle away, as soon as you get his ultimate, he gives himself an extra turn. So technically, he has 11 turns. If you can get 2 ultimates in, he has 12 turns. If you can get 3 ultimates in, which I saw, I think Kujira did a video on it. If you do 3 ultimates, then he has 13 turns instead of 10. So crazy stuff can start to get popped off here. Increases own and combo allies break damage by 20% for 2 turns, and that's literally at level. That's at 0 dupes. 20%, bro, insane. Then deals 128% range Jujutsu damage to a combo ally selected target. Changes to all enemies if the combo ally doesn't have a selected enemy. Then, right here, urgent business. Oh, it's 9 turns. I'm sorry, it's 9 turns. And then if you use his ultimate 10 turns, twice on the ultimate to 11 turns, 3 times on the ultimate, 12 turns. I'm sorry. Once urgent business is expired, he leaves the field, zone state. When Black Flash is performed, it activates his zone state. When he's in zone, his Jujutsu is increased by 30 and his critical hit rate is increased by 30. Then, also, Limitless Technique. At the start of battle, grants self-attack immunity. If skill restriction status is active, cancels out attack immunity. Because typically, when the enemies are in attack immunity status, they can't really... Or when he does his domain, enemies can't attack anyway, so he doesn't need the attack immunity. I'll go over the page that I want to give him. It's recommended in excellent shape, which in all honesty does make sense because this is just going to help him rush the ultimate a lot faster, which I might make that change and work on. I'm already going to work on that page for Mahito. Anybody who has a domain, I like to use that page, I guess. But yeah, no, this Gojo is absolutely insane. He will absolutely break the game and be the #1 character in the game whenever he drops. So guys, this is what you're working towards. This is your end goal right here. Obviously, Sukuna is going to be the best DPS in the game, but this is going to be the best all-arounder in the game. Going to give you the most beautiful play experience, guys. Last but not least, actually not last because we still have a backline unit, we're going to be talking about Yuta here. Alright guys, next up we have Yuta, and I'm actually really excited because I have not seen anything about Yuta post adjustment. You guys all know how Yuta works. Yuta is an incredible DPS. Yuta is also a healer. Yuta also has AoE capabilities. He has instant kill capability. His ultimate hits really hard. Like, dude, Yuta is actually pretty incredible. And also, I was just thinking the other day, I was like, it's really funny. Gojo characters, you get them and automatically they're just ridiculous. Yuta, you had to work on him a little bit, which is funny because in the anime, Yuta literally was cracked, but he had to work on it a little bit. Once he worked on it a little bit, he became ridiculous. And like, obviously, when you get a character skills to level 10 and get all of their dupes in, they become way better. But literally, the amount that Yuta has improved in my eyes from 0 dupes and low skills to like all level 10 skills and like having dupes, like I feel like I can rely on Yuta all the time now, low key. But Yuta can perform a Black Flash, obviously, and increases his own Black Flash rate for 3 turns whenever he does a Black Flash. I believe this will be unchanged. That's just moved to the auto skill. Okay, yes. Let's see. So, and another thing that makes me really excited about this is I already have all these skills at level 10, and when they finally do start giving SP buffs to limited characters, I'm gonna have Yuta strapped up ready to go because all his stuff is already level 10. So his skill 1 right now deals 183 melee taijutsu damage, 40% critical hit rate, and a 50% critical damage increase. After the adjustment, it deals 270% melee taijutsu damage and increases the skill's critical hit rate. So even though it says 40%, so maybe every skill that's an attack ever has a 50% critical damage buff to it and a 40% chance of it being a crit. Maybe that's just naturally how it goes. It's weird how the stats work in this game because there are a lot of stats that typically would be on characters that they're just not showing on characters. So they kind of had to show it a different way. And first of all, big improvement. 90% extra damage is incredible, honestly. Like, this skill hits pretty hard because Yuta just has good stats in general. But now it's going to be even better. Skill 2, I'm excited for this. Let me guess, there's no change? Oh, there is a change. Oh, okay, let's see. Deals 135% Jujutsu damage to all enemies. Decreases all enemies' critical hit resistance by 15% for 2 turns. Depending on own Jujutsu and the enemy's health. Instantly kill the enemy. Some enemies excluded. 40% critical hit rate, 50% critical damage. I'm just going to start ignoring this unless the number is different, guys. The skill 2 post adjustment. So what was it? 135 Jujutsu to all, 15% crit hit resistance, and a chance to instant kill. Now it's 150, 135 goes up to 150. The more cursed energy, the greater the damage increase is. Additionally, up to an additional 90%. Maxes out at an increase of 60 cursed energy. Also, guys, 60 cursed energy seems crazy, but let me show you something. It actually says right here, if you look really close, post adjustment, this man's starting cursed energy is 70, not 40, 70. Which means without the dupe is probably, this is 30 without the dupe. So that means this is probably 60 without the dupe. So now it's 70, or now it's 40 or 70 that you're starting out with. Starting with 70 cursed energy is bonkers. Okay. So he gets the extra damage based on cursed energy. Already incredible. Increases all enemies' Jujutsu damage received by 14% for 2 turns. So they took away 1%, but that's okay because the more cursed energy you have, the greater the damage is to them as well. So you go from a raw 135% damage to and 15% crit resistance to a raw 150 with an extra 90% chance potential, then a raw 14, which is only a 1% decrease for a potential of extra 35% damage increase dealt. Then max increase at 60% cursed energy, minimum of 20.1% increase at 20 cursed energy. Then depending on the Jujutsu and enemy's remaining HP, instantly kill the enemy. So this skill is gonna hit way harder because it's giving a bigger damage bigger damage increase, and it's doing more damage as well. So very good. I'm so excited to use this man Yuta at this level. I'm gonna go ahead and just change this to level 10. I'm not reading it, I promise. Okay, cool. Deals combined damage equal to 137.6 taijutsu and 189.2 jujutsu, and then 172 taijutsu and 258 jujutsu to the selected enemy, right? So the reason why the split up is like that is because literally Yuta attacks first, then Rika attacks right after. The adjustment goes from 137 and 189 to 140 and 190 straight up. Then from 172 to 258 to 180 to 260 straight up. This skill got a really small buff. It even says it right here. This skill got a really small buff, but I'll be honest with you, this skill already does hit really hard, so it actually works really well already. Like that buff is fine. Ultimate. 2000% range Jujutsu damage to all enemies. Increases own taijutsu by 20% for 4 turns. Increases own Jujutsu by 20% for 4 turns. Unable to fill ultimate gauge for 4 turns. Unchanged. Unfortunate. I wish, and this is gonna sound crazy, but I just wish that this would change to 3 turns. Just 3 turns. Give me one less turn of me not being able to build up my ultimate, and that would have changed it a lot. But even still an incredible unit, obviously. Increases on the combo allies damage dealt by 10%. Let's see. Has the healing changed at all? Realistically, the healing needs to change, and they need to make it so that Yuta can heal himself. Because if you know reverse curse technique, what do you know, chat? What do you know? You know how to heal yourself! What is wrong with y'all, bro? What is wrong with you, Billy? Give this man heal on himself. At the start of each turn, if an ally's HP is 60% or below, and your curse energy is 10 or above, recovers all allies' HP by 25%. You know what I just thought about, chat? This starting curse energy, 70 instead of 40, is gonna make this way easier to maintain. The only problem is, that means that this is going to be used up really early on in the fight if he always has the curse energy to do it, because he can only do this 3 times, and sometimes you want to save it for later on in the battle. So you sometimes have to prioritize other healing characters, Shoko, or healing items to make sure the characters don't die as fast, to make sure that Yuta's heal can be stretched into a later part of the fight. Excludes self, deals low damage to cursed spirits. Decreases own curse energy by 10, increases own taijutsu by 10, increases own jujutsu by 10, fills on ultimate gauge by 200. That's another nice part of it. Whenever he heals the entire team, he does fill his ultimate gauge too. When targeted by an enemy's melee attack, a certain chance to deal 120% melee jujutsu damage to an enemy. So guys, I'm gonna be real with you. Post adjustment, I don't think that either one of these things are gonna change at all. I think they're just gonna put the black flash stuff down here and then put the zone stuff down here. Yeah, unfortunately his healing didn't change at all. So this is the big thing I was most excited to see. The heal didn't change at all. So I don't think Yuta's bad, but I'm like, damn, y'all really missed the mark to make him godly. Because like Sukuna does the best damage in the damn game, but heals himself, can consistently keep himself topped up. I know Yuta does the reverse and keeps the team topped up, but damn, man, why couldn't it be like Yuta gives everybody else 25% HP, Yuta gives himself at least 5% HP or something, just something to fight back against the damage that he's taking, man. But we do love Zone, and I also love Zone for the fact that it gives everybody a different buff. Zone doesn't interact with every single unit the same, and I like that a lot. All right, but yeah, Yuta is an incredible option, obviously. Now let's finally go and talk about our backline unit, Maki. So guys, the main reason I'm gonna just be transparent. Maki's ass, but the main reason why I put Maki up here is because 1, I don't really plan for the backline unit to be coming out that much. 2, Maki gets a buff from this game mode and it makes her kind of menacing. 3, she's just a very basic standard banner character who you have a extremely high chance of working on, so you can never say that the dead man didn't give you options that you would probably have, right? And she's going to be on the standard banner whenever the standard banner update comes, so there's a chance of you still getting her. Because as we know, luck is not something that is in players' favors in this game. So you might end up getting 5 copies of Maki. Knock on wood, I hope that doesn't happen to you, but it could. Unable to recover or consume cursed energy. Obviously, this is going to be unchanged. And she can't hit black flashes because she can't even perceive cursed energy. Alright, deals 100%, deals 150 taijutsu damage. If it's at a really like, if it's really close to like an actual, just like solid, like, you know, multiple of 10, 50 or something like that, I'm not even gonna bother to read out the percentage anymore. 150% taijutsu damage to a selected enemy. Post adjustment 1, unchanged. Adjustment 2, goes up to 180% instead of 150, so a 30% damage buff, really good. Then on her skill 1, deals 200% taijutsu damage to a selected enemy, increases own ultimate skill gauge recharge rate by 20% for 3 turns, and increases own taijutsu damage by 30% for 2 turns. So already, this is insane, because if you look past, if you look at just the pre-adjustment, that's a 50% buff in how much damage this used to do. even with the post 1 adjustment, it's still a 30% or 20% buff to how much damage it does now. You're also increasing your ultimate gauge recharge, and you're also increasing your taijutsu damage. So this not only should do good damage, but also should be getting you back to your ultimate even faster. And that ultimate gauge recharge rate should stack, since it's a % chance. So your ultimate should recharge faster and faster over those turns, theoretically. Skill 2. 135% taijutsu to a selected enemy. Decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 44.4%. Then, post adjustment. Nothing changed. So I don't think any of her stuff had changed. Yeah, none of her stuff changed with the first adjustment. All of her stuff changed with the second adjustment. Okay. No, her passive was the only thing that changed. Let's see. Skill 2. 135% taijutsu damage to a selected enemy. Decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 44%. Now, V2 Maki, I guess. Deals 139.9 taijutsu damage. That's up from 135, so not much of a change. And then increases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 45.3%. Not much of a change at all. This skill is still boof or whatever. This skill is low-key one of the reasons why I worked on Maki in my first time ever playing the JP version of JJK. It's because she had an AoE, and it costed no energy to do, and I was like, okay, this helps with farming. Deals 105.1%, deals 105 taijutsu on all enemies. V2, skill 3 V2. Deals 225 on all enemies. Oh, that's way better than 105. It has a cooldown though now. So just keep in mind, since the skill hits a lot harder, it has a cooldown. So you can't just spam it every turn. Ultimate. Deals 959.95% melee taijutsu damage to a selected enemy. After the update. Deals 1099 melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. And SP potential unleashed. A clean 1300 melee taijutsu damage to a selected enemy. The more HP that you have, the greater the damage dealt. Up to 1560 taijutsu damage with 70% or more HP. Now that's some evil ultimate damage right there. Obviously she has to be healed up, but reverse curse technique works on her. She's not like her spirit or anything, so you can heal her at least. Yuta could heal her, right? I don't, Yuta, would Yuta be the first to die? Out of Yuta and Gojo. Yuta, if anybody died, yeah, it would be Yuta over Gojo, because Gojo's gonna be getting healed. But if the time goes how it usually goes and Gojo just leaves naturally, then yeah, Yuta and Maki would be together, so Yuta would be able to keep her healed up. I'm just trying to think of the scenario, you know. Increases own combo and allies, increases own and combo allies damage by 8%. Her auto skills. Heavy restriction. Start a battle, increases own taijutsu damage by 7%. The more enemies you have in the wave, the greater the damage boost. Then fortune favors the bold. At the start of each wave, increases own taijutsu damage by 10% for one turn. Post adjustment, this jumps up to 15% instead of 7%, but this down here does not change at all. Then, post adjustment, skill V2. Heavenly restriction. At the start of battle, recovers own HP by 2% each turn, reduces own damage received by 8%. Wow, a self-heal. Yuta, where's your self-heal, bro? Maki has self-heal and she doesn't even know what the fuck curse energy is, my man. She does know what curse energy is, but she can't proceed that shit, bro. At the start of turn, increases own taijutsu damage for one turn. The more enemies in the wave, the greater. This is good just because they show an actual number representation of how much you're getting. This kind of works like Mekamaru that just released in JP, who gets extra damage depending on how many Kyoto school students there are. But the taijutsu damage increase is going to be 21.8% for one enemy, 42% for two enemies, 75.7% for three enemies, and then 123% for four enemies. Then, fortune favors the bold. Increases own taijutsu and critical hit rate by increases taijutsu damage by 10%, and then increases critical hit rate by 20% for 2 turns. And then like-minded sisters the page, obviously. But yeah, Maki seems to be somewhat formidable now that the update is out. She seems to be a lot better. But guys, this video has already taken a very long time. I'm gonna go ahead and just go to the all the subs, and we're gonna kind of go through them briefly. I'm not gonna go completely through that kit. I guess I'll go through like the parts of the kit that I think makes them the most correct, and then we'll just kind of like go to the next one because I'm not trying to take y'all's time up all day long, man. All right, Maki is an incredible character. We have been using this character from the start. You guys already know the reason why he's here, because his skill 2 gives damage reduction and also fills allies' ultimate gauge by 200 every single time that he uses the skill. You have to be careful with him though, because he does sacrifice his own HP whenever he uses a skill at all, but Yuta can kind of counterbalance that because he heals 25% HP if anybody's below 60% HP. So if you're right outside that 60% threshold, you can get Maki pretty close back up to like max HP, but like not really, because 85% ain't 100% at the end of the day. He also has a really nice stun chance here on his skill 3, the ultimate you typically never use. So just a word of advice, if you're ever building a team with Maki, never give him the perfect synchronization page, because you do not want to use his ultimate. His ultimate takes the most HP from him, and it doesn't even do that great of damage for how much you're damaging him. He does recover himself and allies HP whenever he does a combo skill though, so that's pretty good. This red Yuji, the only reason why I put him in here is because some people may already have him. I don't have him, but I've used him on the Japanese version of the game, and I'll be honest with you, it just feels like this Yuji hits really damn hard. Like, there was no particular skill that I saw that I was like, oh dude, no way. But I do love that Yujis always have something that increases their crit rate and their he increases all allies break damage. So he's pretty good just in that regard, because he's giving everybody a buff, but he's mainly an attacker though. He's not self-excluded on this, which is really nice. So red breaker unit, which he's not the breaker himself, but like he can make your team all breakers. Then he also fills his ultimate gauge typically on one of his skills, on the Yuji characters typically do. Fills his ultimate gauge, boosts his taijutsu damage. He just does really good damage. What's his ultimate? His ultimate is always a black flash guaranteed, and once a black flash comes out, the damage always starts to get ridiculous. Like I said, not going through these guys super in detail, but like he is a really good unit. He does hit really hard. From what I've noticed from personal experience, like he always hits hard. And to give you perspective, I was in an event where all of my team was worked on, and then I had to use the backline unit at the end, and Yuji came out. Yuji wasn't even level 80 yet, but I was like, the fact that you're doing damage to the boss right now anyway is kind of ridiculous. Next up, we got this man, Toji. Guys, I don't think that you should have summoned for Toji, because everybody who was watching content on this game when it started knows that they should have been summoning for Yuta, and Yuta and Toji are kind of like interchangeable. Toji's gonna have more straight out raw damage because of who he is. He's the man, the myth, the legend, the man that killed Gojo, the sorcerer killer, so he's got to have that shit on him, right? But then Yuta is not going to do as much damage as Toji, but will have more versatility in the fact that he can heal for you, and it'll probably work better on more teams because of that heal. The heal will make him more likely of an option versus Toji on a lot of different teams. Even still though, Toji is an incredible DPS. He has a lot of mechanics built into his kit that literally like reduce attack nullification, or reduces damage received, or anything like that, or reduces the enemy's damage received, reduces an enemy's attack nullification, things like that. Just highly damaging, really good, incredible unit. And another reason why I put him on this list is because he's out right now, and guys, I cannot rightfully look at you and say don't summon for Toji, since I have a 2-star Gojo in my account, which means I've summoned Gojo 3 times, and I have a 0 dupe Geto in my account. Geto is probably the character you should be summoning for the least out of all these characters. And granted, I only did 1 not free multi for Geto. The 2 first multis I did for Geto were free. The 8 singles I did were free. But the 1 summon I did for Geto that got him, or I'm sorry, not 2 free multis, the 1 free multi they gave us, and then the 7 tickets, right? Or the 8 tickets. But I got Geto from my cubes 1 multi, and I was like, I knew I was gonna get him from that 1 multi. It was just a weird intuition type of thing. You can't just walk in and do that. But Toji is somebody that I could imagine people are summoning for, like I summoned for Gojo. Like I went to pity for Gojo. Even though I got Gojo in the first summon, I was like, let me go ahead and see how many more copies of him I can get, because he's a limited character. I know he's not coming back soon. So he's out right now. He is a very strong option. He is very ridiculous. And some people didn't get lucky and get Yuta. So some people are forced to summon for Toji anyway. So he's going to end up probably being one of your mainline options to replace Yuta, and if he's not replacing Yuta, you're probably using him side by side with Yuta, because obviously Domain Expansion Gojo's not out yet. This is actually the last character that I have lined up for the video right here. I have Nanami here because Nanami is just a free-to-play character. I have never used Nanami at all, but I know Nanami has some really good shenanigans where your entire team can just get a really high damage reduction level, and basically your team is just like taking zeros and stuff. And Hanami's domain is really busted, and this debuff right here specifically is really busted. I personally do not have Nanami in my account because I opted to get a 2-star Mahito before I got any other free-to-play cursed shop character, because if you ask me, Mahito is incredible, Nanami is solid, Jogo is ass, and we don't know what Dagon is going to look like yet, but Dagon is probably going to come out in the Japanese version pretty soon here, and it'll probably be a yellow curse, and I'm very curious to see what my options for yellow are, because imagine, obviously Domain Expansion for Fushiguro is going to come out, and I'm going to get him because he's going to be on the standard banner. It is what it is. I have so many multi saved up for that shit, so it's damn near guaranteed, right? And eventually he'll be updated and put on the banners in the future. But if Dagon is an option that can drop his domain and do similar things to Domain Expansion for Fushiguro, then he might be getting use over Domain Expansion for Fushiguro. But guys, let's go back to the game. Let's talk about the pages that I'm using on each one of the characters, and then I'll play it by ear and see if I've been taking too long in the video. If I've been taking too long in the video, we might not do a run, but honestly, the show goes on. We might have to do the run. So guys, for Yaga, we have Unity from top to bottom. This page is always on my Yaga. Literally gives everybody ultimate gauge fill rate for 2 turns, and it's 35%, so like it's very good. And then also, when target enemies are in break status, it gives Yaga extra ultimate. So that's good because Yaga's ultimate actually does build up a little bit slower than my other units. It's something that I have noticed quite a bit. We have perfect synchronization on this man Nanami. I was explaining this earlier. Literally, this 35% damage dealt increase to all allies for 1 turn can only be used on your ultimate, and Nanami's ultimate is already an ultimate that boosts everybody's damage dealt. So that in combo with perfect synchronization is kind of like a no-brainer. It just makes it insane the extra damage that he's going to be doing. This right here is going to be Domain Expansion Gojo, and I could use an extra, so where is it? I could use this page for Domain Expansion Gojo right here because it does boost his ultimate gauge by 360 upon me initially using it, which is going to push his domain extremely fast. But I do like to be somewhat even with my ultimate building, so that whenever I get my ultimate on one character, I have it on all my characters, man. Because the pages like this, right? You have this page right here, which gives me extra 90% yellow damage, attribute damage dealt to an enemy 1 time for 1 turn. It can only be used on your ultimate. But then this right here, when your turn starts, if your ultimate gauge is max, it applies 20% break damage increased to self for 1 turn. I don't like that, because if I want to use the ultimate, but everybody's ultimate is not stacked up, that means I'm losing out on the break damage, or I'm not losing out on it, I'm still going to use a skill on that turn. But if I have a character that I need a buff for this, which I'm going to be using Yellow Gojo, so I'll probably buff right before ultimate, I'm probably going to just lose this break damage for no reason, unless the entire team is ready to ult at the same time. But I can use an excellent shape. But realistically, the page that I had for the new Gojo is literally just the page that comes out with him. It's called Detainee Party. This is not out on global yet, right? But basically what this page does is, at base, when a command skill or ultimate skill is activated, increases all allies' ultimate gauge charge rate by 10% for 2 turns, and increases all allies' damage dealt by 15% for 2 turns. It has a 9-turn cooldown. Then, right here, if you get it to 2-star, or 1-star, increases all allies' critical hit chance by 10%. And then, if you get it to 3-star, increases all allies' ultimate gauge by 15%, charge rate by 15%, I'm sorry, and then increases all allies' damage dealt by 20%. So, this may seem like a bad skill to put on Gojo because it boosts, or it may seem like a bad skill to use on Gojo because it boosts the allies' ultimate gauge and it cools down after 9 turns. And you probably aren't building up an ultimate, you probably aren't taking 9 turns to build up all your ultimates. But the thing about it is, everybody on the team does not have a domain. The only people on my team who can't build up their ultimate right after using their ultimate are Domain Gojo and Yuta. So that means that with Gojo's page, for 2 turns, when I use those ultimates, I have the ultimate gauge charge rate on Nanami and Yaga building back up by an extra 15% for 2 turns, right? So that means that they're getting back to their ultimate faster, which their ultimates are literally 1, a debuff, and 2, something that increases damage though. So I'm okay just getting those ultimates back as fast as I can again versus getting Yuta and Gojo's. Like Yuta and Gojo, no matter how you look at it, they're going to be hard locked out of doing their ultimate again really fast. So no matter what, you might as well just try to capitalize your 2 buffers and make sure your 2 buffers are still doing what they need to do to make sure that the DPSs are doing what they need to do. You know how it goes, man. And plus, once you get it to limit break 1, like all allies critical hit chance increases by 10 at the start of the battle. Like this doesn't save for 1 turn. So that's why I'm also kind of just sitting here like, just good support for your team, right? Then the page that I have for Yuta is non-standard, obviously. Deals extra curse damage, 85% curse technique whenever you're using your ultimate. I could take off this one for Pride because I finally did get Pride to 5-star in level 80. Funny story about Pride, guys, if you don't know. Whenever I first started playing, I thought that Jogo's page was a shitty free-to-play page, and I traded in 2 of them. Luckily, I hadn't beaten the last level yet, so I couldn't trade in all 4 of the extra copies yet. But I traded in 2 of them, and I really regretted that because I confused Jogo's page with this page, which is really shitty because they look similarly colored. It looks kind of like fire in that one, right? But it is what it is. Now I have this one boosted, and I do like this one quite a bit because it gives you 35 or 15. How much is it? 60% increase to curse technique for self for 8 turns, 2 times. And you can use this again after 5 turns. So you can stack that 60% curse energy, curse technique increase on yourself. Honestly, yeah, that is kind of better than non-standard. I think where non-standard shines, no, non-standard doesn't give you any extra stats over this one. Yeah, wow, Pride just might be outright better. Oh, I like non-standard better because it fills up the ultimate gauge at the start of the battle by 200. That's what it is. That's what it is. Whereas this one does what? When the turn starts, if HP is no more than 50%, can only be used once in battle. Applies 30% damage, they'll increase. So that one's a little more conditional. So I think I will stick with non-standard for now on Yuta and then switch over to Pride if I see it fit. And then literally we have like-minded sisters on Maki. This one is just non-standard, but the physical version. It gives 85% physical technique increase to self for 1 time for 1 turn. And it also fills ultimate gauge by 200% whenever you land a critical hit instead of when the fight starts. But it is basically an hour of recording here, guys, but like I said, the show must go on. So let me switch out Gojo for some red unit that I had as a sub, and we'll go try an event. Alright guys, I'm just gonna do the Kyoto All-Stars, not Kyoto, I'm sorry, the Tokyo second year's mission, right? Because red is the type advantage against this. I'm just gonna go in here with the mono red team, see exactly what they, oh, look at that team. Y'all recognize that team from the other video? Yeah, this team performs pretty well, huh? But we're gonna just go in with this team right here. I opted to just throw in Inamaki because, you know, that is a red character that I already have worked on. He also is going to help me build my ultimate up really fast, and also we have we can just use this page on him that increases everybody's damage dealt by 15% for 1 turn. 10%. Yeah, this page is kind of dog shit, but hey, it'd be like that. Any extra little bit of damage increase is any extra little bit of damage increase. But let's go ahead and hop in here. So guys, my victory is assured in this fight. Like, I've beaten this when my characters were way worse, and now you're telling me I have a full team that's type advantage in here. But like, yeah guys, I just want to give you guys like team options that are highly doable. This is highly doable because Inamaki is just a rare character, right? And he is one of the subs. He's not the main one that I said, you know, go for, but like, he is one of the subs. But like, Inamaki, highly achievable character, especially at 5-star. You know, same thing for Nanami and Yaga. And one really nice thing about them is the fact that since these guys are all SRs and rares and all that, it's going to be really easy for you to get them to 2 dupes initially, so they're going to have more starting curse energy initially as well. You can see right here, I'm just using Yuta's skill 2 right now to just slowly whittle away the enemies. It is doing just that. It is working exceptionally well. Yuta with the heal there, so very good. You can already see some of the synergies working together in the team. It's like, yes, I do have some SR and rare characters, but at the same time, we have Yuta in the back to make sure that everything is okay. And plus, you have to remember, instead of having Inamaki, we're going to have DE Gojo to make sure that everything is going exactly as we need it to. So now we're going to, how much health does each one have? 52, 5, 182. Oh, I can't. Okay, so Panda's drawing attack anyway. So we're gonna do this. Panda's drawing everybody's attack. So I'm sorry, Panda, but you got to take the brunt of this. But you did it to yourself, bro. I didn't ask to do this to you. I'm going to use Inumaki's ultimate here just because it's a this is a weak event at this point. Like a very weak event. But I will use Inumaki's ultimate here just so Yuta has somebody to combo up with, because if I don't, he won't have anybody to combo up with. But that is absolutely a GG here. I was gonna say, Nanami is definitely killing this man Panda on his own. Look at how much damage Nanami does. Like, Nanami just surprises you every now and then. He nearly did 1 million by himself. That was 767,000, just so you guys know, right? Then, altogether, these two did 1.2 million, nearly 1.3 million. And then everything else is just done here. Maki is absolutely cooked. Inumaki killed right there. And then how much damage does Yuta do? $3 mil. Was that 3 mil or 300k? The number, they gotta do better about making it so that you can see the actual numbers whenever you do something like that. But guys, as you saw, the team performed without a hitch extremely well. If this video was helpful for you guys and it gave you some insight as to some characters that you should be working on, then please do go down below, destroy the like button, Dark Cloak Dimension / the subscribe, and please raid my comment section and tell me what characters that you're working on, what characters that you want to work on for your mono red team, or for any mono team really. And also, I hope somewhere I linked the mono green video for you guys, because that video was just as important and gave information just as good. But that's going to be it for your boy DEADMANVINCE. I hope that you guys did enjoy. Peace out.